What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today it's time for the Woman of the Hour. Spooky season? Question mark? I don't know. Maybe. It's got vibes. It can slide in technically, but this film stars Anna Kendrick and Daniel Zavada. Also has like Tony Hale and I don't know, some other actors, right? Pete Holmes uh, down the line, but mostly it's Anna Kendrick, Daniel Zavada, and it's based on a true story. And this is Anna Kendrick's directorial debut. This film went around to the film festivals, and Netflix picked it up. It's an acquisition, which is why it's inherently a little bit better than you would think it is. So this is not your average Netflix movie of the week. This is something that somebody else made. Netflix bought it. So yay! Of course, also I noticed that It's What's Inside didn't really trend either, so this doesn't really seem to be. It's like everybody, you guys say you want better movies on Netflix. When Netflix puts acquisition titles up there that they've gone to the festivals and bought, watch them. You know, His Three Daughters, It's What's Inside. These films should be getting watched. They shouldn't just be falling out of the top 10 immediately because they're not the schlocky movie of the week crap that Netflix keeps churning out that is so unmemorable. So Woman of the Hour is actually based on a true story of a serial killer in the 70s and really highlights why he went so long, without being caught, and how men just didn't take women seriously. So it jumps around in time. The beginning of the movie is quite jarring and sets the tone. I didn't really know what the movie was about. The funny thing is about Anna Kendrick is that you assume when you're watching an Anna Kendrick movie a certain amount of levity within the film. And while there are moments, there are only fleeting moments, and it only comes in the form of this date of her being on the dating game and this sort of like smile and sheen she puts on to her character. But for the most part, this is uh, not a happy film by any means. And the opening scene will set the tone for you as to whether or not, this is something you want to watch. You should watch it because this is, again, based on a true story. And in a day and age when we're watching nothing but true crime and serial killer podcasts, this should be like the number one thing on Netflix. Uh, so, um, eh, if monsters can top the chart, the Women of the Hour should be the number one thing on Netflix now. It's been enough time. You've seen monsters. This is better. Anna Kendrick does a better job with this than Ryan Murphy did with Monsters. Why? Because she doesn't humanize the serial killer. She doesn't go. She's not interested in trying to like make you feel bad for the Hernandez brothers or for the Menendez brothers or Aaron Hernandez, which is what Ryan Murphy has been doing all year long, is taking people who were killers and then being like, but were they? They were just misunderstood. And now they're reopening the Menendez brothers case. And it's just like, if Ryan Murphy gets those fuckers out of jail, I don't want to see any of his shit. And again, like, I don't want to see done. Like, no more Ryan Murphy for me. Bye, bitch. So yeah. This portrays him exactly as he should be portrayed, which is we don't need to know. There aren't scenes cutting to his childhood. Like, oh, did he have a rough childhood? Was somebody not nice to him? Did he, like what was so wrong with him? Oh, poor guy. No, it pretty much he's just a killer the whole time. Like he has, and it's about his manipulation and his insanity, killer insanity, his craziness, but also how he manages to uh, bring it in, and enough so that he can woo these women to begin with, and then the change in a character, you know, the switch that gets flipped, and how frightening that can be. So this guy eventually got a spot on The Dating Game, because we have no standards. Uh, Probably why there's not a dating game anymore. And so, although we do have like The Bachelor and all that shit. So it'd be like if one of those guys got on The Bachelor, and then you're like, oh, someone on The Bachelor was a serial killer. Great. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that anymore. He's one of three. He's man number 3 or whatever in this, and Cheryl is Anna Kendrick's character. She's an aspiring actress who's been given the opportunity to. This is her moment. It's really sad when you're an aspiring actress and your breakthrough is The Dating Game. Now, fear not, Cheryl, because John Hamm started out on Singled Out. So, stranger things have happened. So, you could very possibly end up but unfortunately, the real Cheryl did not. She kind of takes this as a sign to leave this sort of toxic masculinity world behind, where men just keep kind of intruding on her life. And 70s were a weird time for women, fighting for that sort of equality and their right to, I don't know, have a credit card or literally do anything without a man's signature, rent their own apartment without a man co-signing, a whole bunch of things that women couldn't do back in the day. So she's on this, trying to make the best of it. And lo and behold, one of 3 men is a serial killer. We do get to see how that dynamic plays out. I'm not going to spoil anything with, although it is based on true stories, so you can just spoil it for yourself by looking up history. And that dynamic is really interesting. There's a scene with them in the restaurant where they go out on like a date, which, by the way, no, I don't want to say that, but they play with one of the things that the screenplay does here is it does play a little bit with the cinematic quality of this, and by inserting things that didn't actually happen, by changing names, like the names that we see of the girls that are murdered are not the names of any of his victims. So stuff like that. There's a scene in the restaurant where you can actually see him go from charming to frightening in like a split second, and sort of see when his brain flips that switch, and he's sort of in a place where he can't necessarily do anything about it, whereas like the other people, he's in places when that switch flips that he's able to do something about it. And it's still frightening, especially for Cheryl in that situation. So I think Daniel Savada does a good job of playing a serial killer here, although we've seen like, I don't know, 1,000 people play serial killers at this point, so I don't know that his performance was like uniquely Oscar worthy. I think that's probably the biggest problem with the film, is that I don't know that anybody's Oscar worthy. I don't like the comments, though, that Anna Kendrick is delivering a performance that it feels very Anna Kendrick, that it's very comedic. I thought she gave the performance she needed to give for this role. She just happens to be right for the role. Like, it feels like she saw a film she wanted to direct and then also saw a role that she would be perfect for. So it was just like a 1-2 punch. She didn't put herself into a role that she didn't fit in. So what is the star of this is her direction, the way that she chooses to direct the film, and her sort of unflinching look at the way that that men have control over women in this time period, the way that women were not believed, the way that, there's a friend that is running around who's pretty convinced it was Daniel Savada and is trying to tell as many people as humanly possible, sees him on The Dating Game and is trying to warn everybody, and that they just do not give a shit. She goes into like the police and complains, and it's like, this is the guy. They don't care. Nobody cares. And it really goes to show how he amassed so many victims. And even in the true story, they finally arrest him and they catch him based on the fact that one of his people gets away, and they let him out on bail. And he goes and kills like 2 people. So while he's on bail. So he eventually got convicted for like 8 murders, but they think he maybe linked it to like over 100. So yeah, he could be a prolific serial killer. It's really interesting to like look at this information, but sort of a really interesting subject matter for Anna Kendrick as a director. I listened to an interview she did where she talked about this, and what she said when she was approaching the film and she got the script, that she gave it to a friend that she trusted. And he was like, why on earth would you want to direct this? I mean, for that first scene, it just sort of like, it really sets the tone. It just didn't feel like Anna Kendrick. And she was like, I think what drew me to it was the intimacy, and how when we choose somebody, the level of trust that we give to that person, and how wrong that can go. I think that's fascinating. I think that's very true, and you see that in these exchanges, because he's not one of those serial killers that just stalks women randomly, and then like they're like walking down the street and he just grabs them. No, he seduces them, and I mean, they're like on dates or whatever, and he comes off as charming, and he gets them off to wherever he needs to get them before. So he actually has to have human interaction and be believably charming to a point before not. And that is, I think that's exactly what she's saying is, do we really know the people that we put in our lives? And it's a very strong debut for Anna Kendrick. I really loved her direction, her choices here. She jumps around in time, but because of that, you get to see sort of these different sides of this guy, and it leaves you, it's the best way to tell a story that's based on a true story that has an ending that you know, by sort of giving you these different angles of it, and constantly reframing the scene and reframing the characters, so that you don't, you're always a little bit caught off guard. You're like, oh, okay, so we're here now, and we're seeing it from this perspective with, at this point in this particular, we're this, we're with this victim now, or we're back in the dating game, so, yeah, it's definitely not a happy movie. That's why I said it's spooky season ? Because, I mean, you could use this. I think this is a sort of brilliantly timed October release for Netflix. It also kind of makes me wonder, sadly, I feel like this is something that's not going to be submitted for really like a priority for Netflix for awards consideration. But to be fair, I don't know what would be. What I think probably they should go after for Netflix is campaigning this with the DGA for first time feature for Anna Kendrick. I think she has a shot. I think what she did here has a shot at getting her. I know they're not like hugely prone to actor turned directors, but Anna Kendrick really makes a case for why she should be considered there. And in a year which has not been particularly strong with women, with like an overflowing amount of female directed films that are just lighting up the marketplace, where it felt like last year with Greta Gerwig killing it with Barbie, this year it's probably going to be Five Guys in the director's race. I hate to say that, but it's looking like it. So I would love to see Anna Kendrick maybe get that first time, or any of the other, like the critics groups, send Women of the Hour out and try to get her into those first time feature directorial nominations. I think that's where you will get the most success in your awards campaign. I think, sadly, I just think this year, trying to break Women of the Hour Into the Race is just gonna fall short. It's not even one of my favorite films of the year. I found it incredibly interesting, but at the same time, uh, I, I've seen films that I liked more, so I respect the hell out of the film, and I respect the hell out of Anna Kendrick. But um, are there a couple choices I probably would have made differently? Sure. Um, I think casting primarily comedic actors around her in these creepy roles like Tony Hale and Pete Holmes, I maybe would have gone a different route there. I don't know that Hale and Holmes really offered a whole lot to the film, but anyway, um, those are the thoughts on that. Audio description was strong because it has to be. There's some very disturbing sequences. This would definitely be a trigger warning movie if you need one. If violence against women is a thing that you can't stand to stomach, or if you've had violence done against you as a woman, this is not your film. Very much not your film. However, if you want to see something that's engaging, please, if you've been seeing shit like Monsters, where they give it an entire episode to like Eric Menendez to just sit there and let him spew bullshit while also trying to tell a through line that he's a liar. So, and kind of being like, well, so real victims out there who go through stuff like that, you're giving somebody who probably is making that up, and an entire episode to make that up, why? It's almost like Ryan Murphy really does believe that they didn't do it, but he's putting them in Monsters to get people to watch it. And then he's like, well, once you get it, and it's like, I don't know what you're trying to do here, but please stop doing it. Women of the Hour at least sets the tone correctly, and her delivery and punch is exactly where it needs to be. So I do respect it for that. And I'm going to give Woman of the Hour an A-. I think it's a really solid debut from Anna Kendrick. So check it out on Netflix. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.